Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Divorce and Separation Coach podcast. This week, we're talking about a topic that's really dear to my heart, the power of positive thinking during divorce. Now, we all know that our thoughts influence directly the way we feel. And of course, during a divorce, there's a lot of different emotions coming up. And being able to control our thinking in a way that allows us to stay in control of what's happening to us, and therefore the impact it has on us, is going to be key. So to talk about this topic, I've invited Sonia Moses. Sonia is a dear friend, but she's also a national Muay Thai champion and a human performance coach. Sonia's got over 25 years of experience in health and fitness. She's also a life coach, having been sponsored by global brands like Nike over the decades. Sonia leverages the resilience that she's learned and built through sports and exercise in her own life, including when she went through her own divorce experience. Thank you so much for joining me, Sonia. It's so nice to see you.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So very interesting topic. And I know, of course, in sports, mindset is so important, right? And the way you think about things. And there's a lot of analogies that you draw between being in the ring fighting and actually day-to-day normal life experiences that require that kind of power and that positive thinking. Can you tell us a little bit about how positive thinking can influence the way we live our lives and the way we experience hardship?
Definitely. So obviously I always bring it back to my sport and movement, and not just Muay Thai, but yeah, when I've been in a sporting situation. Muay Thai was really key for me because I was very scared of it. Because when you're in that ring, it's you and you're alone, and you know somebody's trying to take your head off. We're in the gamesmanship and sportsmanship, and it's really about, you know, every time you get hit, if you cry, obviously you're not going to win. So it's about learning to take the shot, block the shot, swerve the shot, and then answer back when it's the appropriate time. So it's not about going in really aggressively and expending all of your energy all at once. It's actually about being really smart and clever. And I wanted to master that. And definitely when I've been through 2 divorces. When I went through, especially the second one, it was about trying to find that calmness in the storm, and that's effectively what it always was in the ring. And I know, like, you've played tennis, we've spoken about this, it's very similar because there's a lot of pressure, but you really have to try and stay calm under the pressure. And in terms of positive mindset, the positive mindset is really about being goal orientated. So you can't let emotion come in and disrupt, whether, you know, I was in the ring, whether you're playing tennis or whether you're in, you know, a court case for your divorce. You really have to try and think about it in a methodical way. And it can be really hard because with divorce, you know, we're grieving, you know, we're going through a Kubler-Ross curve. That's what's happening. So sometimes, yes, it is easier said than done, but the power of it when you can get there and, you know, just dropping in anchors and things just to anchor yourself, ground yourself so that you can get into that state is really key. And I remember, you know, before I used to go out and fight in arenas and in stadiums, you'd sit next to your opponent in Thailand. So I lived in Thailand for 2 years. You would sit next to your opponent and they'd be calm and you'd be sitting there thinking, and I would do a lot of breathing work, which I had learned, you know, over the years and worked with healers and stuff. So the key is really getting a hold of your breathing, and that translates into when you're going through divorce, you know, when you're in a business meeting and it gets tricky, or when you feel you're really overwhelmed with your emotions. And I'm not necessarily talking about sitting there and omming, but actually getting a hold of your parasympathetic system, so that inhale and that exhale really flowing through your belly, not in our chest. Most of us breathe in our chest the whole time, and we're in our sympathetic system, and it's really about getting ourselves into our healing performance state, which is that parasympathetic breathing. So, and you know, if I look at my 4-year-old breathe at night, or even when she just breathes, she's breathing fully in her stomach. It's just when we go through life and, you know, we have stresses put on us, that we start to breathe up in our chest, which is only 20% of our, you know, our oxygen capacity. So the breathing is key. And then within that breath, that vital breath is the positive thinking that comes. So I'm not sure if I fully answered, but yeah, I'm sure we're going to have
you
a
absolutely
conversation about it.
But I really like that what you were alluding to is that when you're in control of the situation, if you're able to think positively, if you're able to have these goals that you were mentioning, you're able then to stay on course and to avoid being reactive to the other person. And, in fighting, just like in other, conflict situations, whether they're physical or emotional conflict, there is a tendency to react to what the other person does, says, etc. So how do your thoughts help you stay in your lane and make sure that you don't go off course because the other person's pulling you there?
Yeah, so again, I'll relate it back to sport, and whether it's an individual sport you play or whether it's a team sport, the other side will always try and make you play their game.
Yeah.
Because both sides want it their own way. So that's what I was talking about, that being really goal orientated. It's really about staying in your lane with the kindness, with, no animosity there. But this is what we're doing. And also learning to live in the grey. When somebody told me that, pretty much at the start of this, sort of five years ago when I went through what I went through, when you can master that and you can ride those waves, whether it's in the ring, I'm sure my sparring changed, like when I was fight training, or I went and did pads with my coach, because you can plan to do something. So I might think, all right, I'll fake a move, then I'll put a combination on my opponent. But if they disrupt you, then that's really upset your plan. So what are you going to do? Are you then going to go, oh, well, that didn't work out? Or are you going to think on your feet and do something different? Because that's when you're in the grey. When you can navigate those waves, that's really when I think you've cracked it. And it definitely takes practice.
Yeah.
And I work with especially life coaching clients, and there's a lot of corporates, there's a lot of females in business, and they get very upset and angry, and it's like, just take a moment, absorb what's being said. You actually don't need to say anything back. You can just take on board what was said. Sometimes it might not even need a response.
That's very true.
Right? And sometimes it just takes a moment for you to think. You don't have to snap back all the time.
Yeah.
Because probably that's what the other person wants you to do. And that's fine. They can do that. But actually for you, and, being really in tune with what you need at that particular time and where you're going, again, in that goal, it's really about sitting back and just noticing what's going on. How do you feel? And that takes a moment, and it takes practice. It really does.
Really? And that whole idea of setting goals, I mean, that's kind of the essence of coaching, whether it's sports coaching or life coaching or divorce coaching. That's your direction. That's the path that you're setting. But you have to accept that there will be disruptions, and being able to react to those in the right way is going to make a very big difference for everybody. So
just one more point on that, actually, before we move on. So, we are a collection of our thoughts. That's really key. So if we choose to engage in conflict all the time without the intention of resolving it, then that's where we're always going to be. We're going to be in a conflict, and conflict is negative charges. So when we fill ourselves with positive charge, and, whatever comes at you, you can look at it and go, okay, this is coming at me now, rather than like, argh. And yes, it's natural to feel like, but if you can go, okay, this is coming here right now, I'm not going to respond to it. I'm going to do it this way, and I'm going to do it with a positive intention that completely changes the charge of everything, the energy of everything. So that's really key, is we are a collection of our thoughts. So if we choose to think negatively, or, we can't shake it off, or we want to fester in our gloom, that's how we're always going to be. And that's where we manifest disease, and that's where we get pains and aches and pains in the body. It's just for a separate conversation. But, when we positively charge ourselves, and so we surround ourselves with the right things and the right people, then that's a game changer for sure.
Yeah. I think that's why that book by Mel Robbins, Let Them, is so powerful. I mean, it's a very simple message, but that's exactly it, is learning to not let events, people's behaviors, everything external to you take you off your path and disrupt your thoughts and make you feel bad and negative. Then you're giving them the power to influence how you feel, and they don't deserve that power.
And that is the key. This, I've been through divorce twice. And the second time, it really was about taking my power back in many, many ways. You know, that's why I went back into Thai boxing. I'd fought on a main stage, at the world stage before I had Maya. Then, you know, a year later, I put on 30 kilos, which again, for your positive thinking as a woman and as a sports person, really, you know, affects your mental health. And then your body goes through all sorts of changes and you have no control over it. You know, it really is bringing it back to that, that positive. So,
yeah.
You know,
and so how do you break those limiting thought patterns when they start getting in your head? You know, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. It's too hard. I'm going to fail. Whatever the thoughts might be. How do you break that to move back into the positive thinking?
I mean, that's where you and I come in, right? So, so, all right. So let's look at like a session 2 with a client. So we have beliefs, whether we want to call them limiting beliefs. And if we imagine those beliefs the belief is a table, and it might have like 4 legs keeping it up. It might have 8 legs keeping it up. So it's really strong. And then you look at what each leg is. So, okay, why are you not good enough? Where's the proof? Let's see the proof. I want evidence. And it's about looking back on, oh, well, this person told me that, or that person told me that. And it's really literally about crushing it and going, well, it's probably a little bit outdated now, because that was when, you know, you were 10, and that was when you were doing this. And, you know, is this person's opinion really valuable? Or so it's really looking at it and breaking it down and basically annihilating each belief. And it can be a bit of a process, right? But that's effectively what it is. And it's not like, oh, yeah, we'll do that and it's all healed. It's, again, it's practice, and it's going back to, what are my anchors? Like, when I'm feeling like this, what do I do? What do I do to make me feel better? Like, you know, these kind of things.
Yeah, and I think in the legs, whether there's 4, 8, or 20, you know, there's some of them that can be deconstructed because they're fictional, and others that might be true. So, you know, one, I'm thinking of a very common challenge that I hear from clients is, you know, my ex is an experienced whatever banker, businesswoman, businessman, etc. They know how to negotiate. They know all these tricks. They're very financially savvy. And I'm just a housewife, or I'm just whatever they think the word is after just. And they think that they are therefore at a disadvantage. And I feel like there's some of those beliefs that could be challenged, and that, okay, so what are you going to do so it's no longer true? So that you are, again, empowered, and you have that option of not taking it as a death sentence, but actually doing something about it.
So this is where sometimes this goes out of my remit, and I'm sure as a divorce coach it will go out of your remit, because we pick our relationships according to the way we are programmed as children, right? Mm-hmm. So when these limiting beliefs, or, you know, these negative thoughts and self-hatred sometimes that comes up, sometimes it can go a little deeper than, you know, just straightforward coaching. So it's about looking at, as a coach, it's going, oh, did you know that you do this, or you refer to this? And then, you know, sort of bringing that up. I remember with my life coach, I mean, I qualified like 20 years ago, bless her, Annie. Now, I always used to seek approval from my mum, and I didn't know. Even in my mid-20s, it was just a thing. Why? You know, I don't know. But I think it was like session 5, and she said, do you know, this is the first time in this session that you haven't said, oh, I should really ask my mum. And I was like, really? And I didn't even know. So, you know, our programming and what makes us feel safe in our first 10 years might not be a positive thing. It might be a negative thing. It might have been a negative comment. And that's what we know is true. And therefore, we don't know necessarily positive and negative. It might make us feel bad, but at the same time, that's what we've grown up with. So, you know, subconsciously, that's safe. So it's sometimes it's about going a little deeper and looking at those things, and gently, right? You know, it doesn't have to be harsh, and everybody does that in their own time. But each thing we go through, each lesson, or, you know, part of our journey that we go through, it is your opportunity to get to the next level, whether you want to call it enlightenment, whether you want to call it, you know, being more evolved as a human. And no one's perfect. We're all in this life of lessons. Like life is a series of lessons, and it's like, well, are you going to go and repeat the same thing over, or are you going to do something to change it to go forward? And history won't repeat itself. I always talk about, I used to be mad into Sonic the Hedgehog when I was younger. I used to have a Game Gear and like complete the game. But it's like, like when you do a level on a game, like a video game, and then I failed it, I'm going to go back and start it again. I failed it, and I'm going to. So it's the same with a relationship. It's like, what is the answer? Is the thing that's going to the next level, and then at that level, what are the things you need to learn on that level? So, and life is a series of that. And do we ever reach that as a soul? Do we ever reach that part where we're like, oh, I cracked it? Probably not.
No, you crack a level at a time.
Exactly.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
So
So do you have any practical tips that you use on yourself or that you can recommend for people going through divorce, but to reframe those negative thoughts? There can be so many, because it is a difficult experience going through divorce, and for a lot of people it's lived through as a failure, even though there's nothing bad in admitting that a marriage isn't working. But how do you help people reframe, or how do you use those strategies on yourself?
So my slogan is movement is medicine. Because whether that's movement mentally or physically, it's key. And if you're stuck and you're not moving, it can get even worse. You can feel even worse. So whether that be, so take my example, I was in a really difficult situation where I never thought I would be, maybe 3.5 years ago. And I wasn't training. I'd been training 6 hours a day when I was a Thai boxer, 6 days a week. I wasn't training, and I needed to get back into it because of what I was in. So I only managed to get in, because I had a newborn as well. 1.5 hour of power a week. That's it.
Okay.
But within that half hour of power, it was my time where I could intentionally train. And that's the key as well. It's about whether it's an intentional walk where you breathe, or you take your shoes off and you go and put your feet in the ground, or wherever it might be, like, just to ground yourself. It's really important to change your state. Let's put it that way. Change your state, whether that be, for me, it was exercise. It wasn't just the exercise. It was the journey that I drove to the gym. It was what I did in the gym. It was afterwards, I had a little stretching routine, and, I'd have a go to the shop and have a coffee and a protein bar. But that's just what I did. That was my time. And it was once a week that I was doing it. And then from that, I could build on that, So it's about having, even if it's just once a week, something that you do. It could be a walk, it could be a run, it could be something that gets your body moving. And you don't always feel like doing it, because, as I say, like when you go through divorce, it feels like grief. It feels like somebody's died, and effectively, that relationship has died. There is an element of, could I have done more? Because there's all sorts of things flying around, and you will travel through that Kubler-Ross curve. So it's easy for me to go, well, when you're feeling really down, just put some music on and get up and dance it out. And that might work, but it might not. So,
well, it requires already an effort to put the music on and take that step.
Exactly. I found personally that community support groups really helped, and not necessarily, me joining like a Facebook group and getting on there and starting chatting rubbish about my ex. It wasn't about that. It was about, finding a group of women that would resonate for me. I've got another friend, she loves baking, and she went through a divorce. So actually she became part of this like divorcee bakers group. Like, that's what they do. They talk about.
That's very specific.
But it's something where it takes your attention away. It's not necessarily, unless you do it for a job, it's not necessarily something you've got to think too much about. It's just something you enjoy. It could be, I don't know, you wanted to get strong and do some training and start lifting. So you joined a group that was specific to that. And you might not join and participate, first of all. You might just be part of it and see what everybody's saying. And always notice, like, what is the energy of the group? So I know you and me are part of a networking group. And the thing I love about that group is it's really positive. We're all very different, but it's really positive. And, is that group supporting you? And do you feel there's value in the group? Or do you
Yeah.
feel that it's kind of holding you back and it's not getting you anywhere? But if you want to, have a bit of a smack talk about your ex, you can. So it's noticing those things as well. And don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, there'll be points when you just need to do that,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um,
You need
I found
a
as
bit of
well, like,
everything.
yeah, like when you go through divorce, and both times, your circle becomes a lot smaller.
You lose
So
friends inevitably.
yeah,
But you
you
gain
do.
some too. I certainly
Yeah,
made a whole new circle of friends afterwards.
me too. Me too. And
Yeah.
it's, who is there genuinely to support you and help you and hold your hand, but also be real with it,
Yeah.
you know, because you can have some friends that turn up for the drama. We've all got them.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it's dramatic, they want to know and they want to know. And then when it gets all a bit too much, they're like, oh, yeah, see ya.
Yeah.
So, who are those core people? And there might just be one who are
Yeah.
going to stand with you and go, yeah, I got you on this.
Yeah.
I was really lucky to have a lawyer like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I actually don't know what I would do without her. I also had my life coach from 20 years ago, Annie, who I've always kept
Yeah.
in touch with. So it's who are those people, even now, like whether you're going through divorce or not, like if the shizzle really hit the fan, who are you going to call?
Yeah.
If there was an
Absolutely.
emergency, who do you know that you can pick up the phone to genuinely
Yeah.
and go, this has happened? And
Yeah.
those are your people.
And
If you're
also
not
those who
sure,
can be there to just not talk about your divorce or whatever bad is happening in your life. I think if you're clear with people what your needs are from them, say actually when I see you, I don't want to talk about this. This is my escape.
yeah, exactly.
But you need to make it clear to people, of course.
And are you going for a walk? Are you going to go have your nails done? Are what are you going to do? And I guess as well, it's
Yeah.
about, and again, really, it's easy for me to say now because I certainly wasn't in that position for a good 2 years. It's about,
Mhm.
taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
It really is. And whether that's, you're having an Epsom salts bath or you're making sure you get your sleep and you're eating good food. I mean, that's our basic need, is basic human need.
Yeah.
Is that we're eating well. If
Yeah.
we're not eating well, nothing will function. If we're not
Yeah.
drinking, 1.5 liters of water minimum a day, then our body's not functioning.
Yeah.
So,
And sleeping enough is a big one as well, isn't it?
yeah,
Because when you're
sleep is the
stressed,
biggest.
that usually goes to the wayside.
And exercise will help with that. The other key thing is in terms of nutrition. So I knew that I wasn't eating properly at all, lost a bunch of
Yeah.
weight, but I always wanted to hang on to my muscle fiber because I've got
Yeah.
a 4-year-old as well. And,
Yeah.
she's very active. So I've got to pick her
Yeah.
up, move her around. So it was always about eating my protein quota or trying
Yeah.
to hit my quota. And that, I guess, for women as well, that's, we miss that because there's a lot of information out there and it's like rule of thumb, it's like 30 grams of protein a meal if you can get that in, winning.
Yeah.
Whether that's in a shake, whether that's in, you're eating it, whether you're it's meat or you're a vegetarian, you're getting your pulses in. That's really key. Even if
Yeah.
it just becomes a habit and that's what you're doing, there's an alarm on your phone, okay, I've got to eat.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing because otherwise you'll get sick as well.
So that's an important piece actually to pick on. Do you see a correlation between physical strength and emotional strength? Do they tend to go hand in hand, and which one leads the other?
Absolutely. So, like, I know personally, I was talking to my coach about this morning in the gym. If I, for whatever reason, even now, I can't get my training in,
Yeah.
I don't feel as strong hitting my business meetings or
Yeah.
looking after my daughter or, and I'm not talking about training for hours like I used to, because obviously I was training for a purpose. Now it's, am I going to get a lower limb session in once a week?
Mm-hmm.
Can I get 2 in? Can I
Yeah.
get 1 Thai boxing in? Because, it's a crazy world out there. I want to know that I can protect my daughter. That's, so can I get that in? Can I then get another upper body session in? And these are maybe like half hour each.
Yeah.
So it's about prioritizing that physical strength to help you with your mental health and your mental strength.
Yeah.
But also there has to be a why behind everything. Going back to that goal orientation again. So, what is my why what's my number one why for keeping strong? My number one why is I'm a single mum.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter wants to be picked up all the time. You know, if she cuts her knee in the street, like, I'm going to have to pick her up and carry her home.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that and struggle, or my back hurt. I want to do that and feel really strong. So she knows, you know, that's her narrative is, oh, mummy's strong. I want to be strong like mummy. And that's how it is, you know.
Yeah.
So it's about finding a why for it. You know, if you're going through court stuff, you just become a single mum. I know, you know, you work with dads as well, or a single dad, or whatever it is. You have to be strong for going to court, because that's no joke, especially if you've never been to court before, which I hadn't, you know, and, you know, you have to go up in front of a judge, and then they question you, and then the other side, like, it's, your body needs to be strong. You need to be well fed to be able to deal with that. And also your mindset's got to be right.
Agreed. So do you have any tools, before we wrap up, some practical tools that people can put in place if they're struggling? I mean, there's times where, you know, everything seems very gloomy and dark. You know, how do you get yourself, right, I guess, in small steps, thinking positively again, and don't let yourself be overwhelmed by all that doom and gloom?
So ideally, it's a movement piece.
Yeah.
The breathing is key. So I guess when you're overwhelmed, it's getting into that parasympathetic breathing state. I feel like we need to do a little video on that, Chloe, going forward. And also, it's about moving the parts of your body that will be most significant. So, for example, our glutes. I mean, obviously, like, what a nice bum, but I mean, not a nice booty, but our glutes are our muscles of power. Without our muscles of power, we can't move forward in life. We can't sprint. We can't run for the bus. We can't run after our child. So it's really about finding exercises that activate that. Yeah. So when you stand up in court, you switch your glutes on and you grow another 2 inches, you know, and that, whether it's in court or whether, you know, I work with a lot of corporate women as well. And we train that in the gym. So when they go into a boardroom and they stand up and they present, the chest is open, the glutes are switched on, you know, they feel 10 times more confident. Yeah. So, you know, if we had to pick one muscle group that we're going to train, I would pick that. So it's things like, can you do a 10-minute routine with even just using your body weight that, you know, includes some sort of hip thrust, some sort of, you know, wall sit, or just to make your glutes and your lower limb feel strong. I mean, ideally, I'd set them a program and go, look, try and do this half hour of power once a week. Yeah. You know, and give reasoning behind each exercise. But a lot of it is glute focused. So per week, if I can only get one weight training session in and I've only got 30 minutes, it's a leg session. And yes, it's hard because I've taught myself how to do that, but it is focused on my glutes.
Oh, that's really interesting. And what about, do you ever use affirmations or more, I guess, psychological tools to try and shift people's thinking?
Yes. I don't personally use them as much now because I can kind of sit with myself and go, okay, if, say, for example, I don't know, I've said, oh, that was really stupid. I can sit back and go, probably wasn't the right language to use. You know, I can sit with myself. So it really is about looking at the language that you're using on yourself and therefore on others. And, you know, and whether it is affirmations that you go through, you know, I'm strong, I'm confident, I'm strong, I'm confident, I'm strong, I'm confident. I used to teach classes for that, actually. Yeah. Yeah. And it was a thing probably like 15 years ago with, it was basically a movement in the States, and you went to a class, and that was the class. You were doing exercise.
You chanted.
You were chanting. It's really powerful stuff. So, you know, and it's about those affirmations being really strong and not like, I don't know, like swearing, like F this. It's not about that. It's about, you know, I'm strong, I'm confident, I'm this, and really getting that into yourselves. Yeah. So, yeah, awesome. If you can do it, and you just need like one or two taglines, like what do you want to feel, which is the opposite of what you feel now, and just keep repeating that, keep repeating it with energy. It's
the same. In yoga, I do a lot of yoga. In yoga, we set an affirmation, right? So every day there's an intention, and you're going to set a positive intention, because people rarely start their day thinking, I want to have a really bad day today. But focusing on one thing. But there is an element of self-fulfilling prophecies. You know, if you are in that mindset, you're more likely, first of all, for good things to happen, but also you're going to experience life seeing the good things rather than focusing on the bad things, because there's always going to be good and bad, right?
Exactly.
And it's really about the lens through which you experience every experience that everybody has to deal with day to day.
And it's your choice.
Yeah.
That's the key.
That's the beauty as well. It's in your control. Everything else that's happening, that you can't control, but you can control how you're thinking.
Exactly.
Do you have any last tips before we part ways?
I don't know. Trying to think of some of the things that really got me through when I was at rock bottom and going through what I was going through. And I guess, yeah, whether you're in the ring, whether you're in a tennis match, whether you're in a particular situation, everything will pass. This too will pass.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you can get yourself into a state of integrity and be thankful. And when I say thankful, it's you wouldn't be able to grow as a human if whatever happened didn't happen to you. And that can be really harsh. Yeah. Sometimes those truths can be harsh. So it's about having that perspective with everything, you know, and you might be really hurt. A friend might have let you down in your deepest, darkest hour of need, but that's the universe showing you that that person's not for your path right now. Yeah. You know, make space for the new. And I guess that's
there's a learning in it as well. Yeah.
So when things are shifted on, whether that's a relationship, whether that's things, whether that's, it is to make space for better things. And also whatever you call in, you know, whether we talk about God or the universe, whatever you call in, it will be so. The universe doesn't understand positive and negative.
Yeah.
So if you keep saying, you know, I don't want another experience like that. I don't want another experience like that. It's a negative in there. So you're going to get the same experience over and over. You have to be really clear about what it is you actually want, you know?
From a positive standpoint.
Yeah, I want an apartment on the beach in Ibiza. So me and my little girl can go there whenever we want. And I'm going to repeating that. You know, and the power of vision boards as well. Like it's very rare somebody puts something on their vision board that is, you know, taking them back before. Yeah. It's forward, isn't it? So vision boards can be really powerful, especially if you're a visual person. So,
yeah, and I agree. I think there is a lot of times people know what they don't want, but knowing what you do want is harder. Exactly. There's another step. You know, one of the tools that I use on myself, I don't remember where I saw it originally, but I also taught my children because I have a daughter who's very emotional, and so she gets very upset about anything that happens that's not really what she wanted it to be. And so I always tell her, think about whether this will still matter in a year's time, and if it will not, it's not worth your time. It's not worth the negativity and the negative energy in your body right now. Drop it. And so I use that for myself too. And I find it really helpful to try and weed through. There are some things that are really worrying. You know, you have a sick child, you're sick yourself, you know, you have a serious family problem. Those are really, they warrant the degree of concern. But when you start worrying about how am I going to respond to this text message from my ex, or what am I going to do about this nasty letter that I got from their lawyer, that micro incident can take over your life and ruin your entire day and sometimes your week or your month. Whereas really in a year's time, it's not going to matter anymore. And I think having that perspective can really help.
Exactly. And another thing, I mean, I love writing. I've always loved writing. And you all know our Family Wizard. Like whenever I'd get a message on our Family Wizard, obviously the first thing you want to do is answer back.
Of course.
But the best thing you can do, like I love pen and paper, or, you know, if I had an old typewriter, I'd be on an old typewriter. But it's about writing it down to yourself. Yeah. Write it down first.
Get it out of your system.
Get it out. And then, okay, next one looks like this. And maybe you're like 5 down the line and you're okay, I'm going to send this, or actually I'm not going to respond.
Yeah. I think oftentimes when we let messages sit for a while, we realize they're not really required. There's actually very few messages that warrant a response. I think we are tempted to respond right away, but it doesn't require it.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much, Sonia. So many great tips. How do people find you if they want to speak to you?
So I'm on LinkedIn as Sonia Moses, Human Performance Coach. I'm also on Instagram as Sonia Moses. I have a website, www.soniamoses.com. And if you hit the contact me button, then it will come through to me there. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me and for sharing all these
Thank you
insights.
for having me.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.